LaVelle Moulton is the men's head basketball coach at North Carolina Central University. Before dominating the courts as a standout player at Enloe High School and North Carolina Central, Coach Moulton dominated a small court as a member of the Raleigh Boys Club. Coach Moulton went on to play professionally in Indonesia and Israel. Following his playing career, Coach Moulton returned to his hometown to coach at the high school level. Moulton has received numerous awards and accolades and has represented our country as a coach for USA Basketball. Coach Moulton gives back to the community through the Bell Cares Foundation, which provides an annual event, Single Mother Salute. In addition, Coach Moulton partners with NBA star and fellow club alum PJ Tucker to host an annual back-to-school community day that serves over 900 kids and families, providing them with book bags, school supplies, and giveaways. Welcome, my friend and fellow club alum, Coach LaVelle Moulton.
You know, it's always interesting, and I got to walk. I can't stand. I'm a coach, so I got to be almost on the course. I just can't stand here. You know, it's always interesting to hear someone introduce you when you're a guest speaker, because oftentimes they're speaking of this guy, right? That guy tends to be a little popular, kind of polished. People respect his voice and opinion. And when they speak about him, they talk about his accomplishments and his awards and the championships and his highlights of his life. But today, I'm not here to talk about that guy. I'm here to talk about that guy. He was a little unpopular, less polished, and contrary to popular belief, he didn't always have a voice or opinion that really mattered. But I had to learn how to thank this guy for being him so that I could be me. My name is LaVelle Moulton, L-E-V-E-L-L-E-M-O-T-O-N. And ever since I was a child, my mother always made me say my name, spell my name, and repeat my name, because she said, in her words, I was going to be really special and the world was going to know my name one day. My story actually began in Boston, Massachusetts, as Smedes mentioned, in a district called Roxbury. Now, I know you guys hear about Boston, you think about the Patriots and the Celtics and the harbors and all of those nice, pretty things, but in the south end of that city was a housing project called Orchard Park Projects that I grew up in, which was known as the murder capital of the world, with myself and my brother. And pretty much it was a situation where you just didn't think you were going to ever be out. You thought you'd live fast, die young. Nobody around there thought they would ever make it until they were the age of 21. But I'm so blessed, and I thank God for giving me a vision beyond my present set of circumstances. I always did a little research as a kid, so I found out that I was going to be one of those guys that made it out of Orchard Park. So I wanted to find out who was in that community prior to me and gave me that innovation and hope to make it out. So I found out a guy by the name of Jimmy Walker, who was the #1 pick in the 1966 NBA draft, was from that housing project. So I said, if he could do it, I can do it. I found out that a lady who was the queen of disco by the name of Donna Summer was from that housing project. So I said, if she could do it, I can do it. And I happened to live a couple of doors down from five guys who later was known as a group called New Edition. I hope some of you all know them. All right? And I found out if they could do it, then I could do it. And I always tell people, I don't even remember what I wore yesterday, but I tell people never underestimate the recollection of a child. When I was 4 years old, we had this rent party, and I used to hate rent parties because a lot of kids would come into my room. We had this rent party, and my father came in, and he asked everybody, hey, I'm going to the store, what you want from the store? And I gave him my order. My brother gave him my order. And eventually I fell asleep. The next morning I woke up, and he wasn't dead. And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, where is he at? Now, I was asking for selfish reasons. I needed my groceries. And she said, he gone and he ain't coming back. I said, what? She said, he's gone and he ain't coming back. So that was my introduction to my father. I don't know what's worse as a grown man, having a father in your life and he leaving you at 4 years old, or just never having him in your life at all. A couple of months later, he left me a bike for my birthday, and it was a blue bike on my porch that said, Happy Birthday, Puffy. It had a ribbon wrapped around it. And I knew it was from him because I was talking to him all throughout the year about having that bike. And I took that bike and I bought it in the house. And to this day, I've never rode that bike. It's still rusty. I still have it in my mother's storage unit because I always felt like if I rode that bike, that would be me accepting him walking out of my life, and I wasn't willing to do that. A couple of months later, my mother's best friend was the victim of gang violence. She was tied up to a bus stop and set on fire as part of a gang initiation. And my mother's supposed to have been with her that night. So now we proceeded to migrate down to Raleigh, North Carolina, and Lane Street, and that's how we ended up here. I'd be remiss if I could go any further. The lady on my right, your left, is my mother, Hattie McDougal. She's one of the hardest working individuals ever in life. This is actually my favorite picture of her. And you can see she has I got a football helmet on. She has a fireman's hat and a football helmet in her arm. So I was probably putting her through the ringer this day. She was going to be my everything. Since the departure of my father, she had to do everything with me. She was the quarterback, the wide receiver, the point guard, whatever I asked her to be, that's who she was. But I get my work ethic from her. You know, obviously, we didn't grow up in privileged circumstances, so she cleaned the houses for a living, all right? And I used to hate seeing her come through that door because she never had a chance to receive any sick medical, dental, no benefits. She used to just tell her kids, when y'all go outside, you can't get hurt because we don't have any insurance and we can't afford to go there. So as a kid, I always sat back and I said, one day, my goal, my number one goal and only goal in life was to never allow my mother to work again. So again, I thank God for giving me a vision beyond my present set of circumstances because I often did this little research. And one day I'm in her file cabinet. I wasn't supposed to be in there. But I go in there and I look and I notice there's 2 birth certificates, mine and hers. And I discovered something that was quite unusual. I discovered, and I already knew this, we got the same birthday, June 16th, right? I was born on her birthday. But as I looked deeper into the birth certificates, I discovered that she was born at 5:06 a.m. And I was born at 5:06 a.m. And she'll kill me for this one. But I looked even further and I found out she was born in 1947 and I was born in 1974. So every number was extremely aligned. And I said, man, I know God ain't put me on this earth to be nothing. Like with that stuff happening, I'm gonna be something one day, I just don't know. The lady on my left, your right, is my grandmother, God rest her soul. My grandmother has never had a formal education of her life, but she's the smartest woman I've ever met in my life. She was a very, very spiritual woman. And every night before we went to bed, she lived at 911 East Lane Street, across from the basketball court. Every night we went to bed, she would make me pray beside her, and she ended every prayer with me asking God to bless her kids' kids. And I didn't know what she was talking about. I always had one eye open, one eye closed, looking at her, and we ended every prayer. And dear God, please bless her kids' kids. I had no idea she was talking about me, none. One day we went to church, and I think this was one of the everlasting, ever-changing events of my life. One day we went to church, and there was a lady in church by the name of Miss Irene. Well, there was a pocketbook right beside my grandmother, and it happened to have some peppermint in there. So I went into the pocketbook and I took the peppermint and I ended up stealing it. But when I jerked my hand back, it slipped out my hand and it hit the floor. Miss Irene, she was one of the elderlies in the church, and she looked at me like with that look like, I'm gonna kill you after this service, right? I know that's not the ideal place to be stealing something, but, and I ain't come up here for y'all judgment today neither, so we not about to do that. But she's looking at me, and I try to put it back, but she's looking at me the entire service. So right after the service, I try to rush and get my grandma. I say, come on, Grandma. She's like, wait. And Miss Irene walks up, and she speaks to us. And she said, is this your grandchild? And my grandmother said, yeah, this is my grandchild, Puffy. That was my nickname. And Miss Irene puts her hand on my head, and she says, he's special. He's going to be a visionary. I was like, what is a visionary? I'm like 7 years old. Like, what is it? I'm thinking she's about to kill me about this peppermint, but she's talking about visionary, right? I said, what is a visionary? And me and my grandmother leave the church, and I said, Grandma, what is a visionary? She said, well, a visionary is a good thing. That means you can see things that other people can't see. She said, I always want you to understand this, though. It's a gift and a curse. The gift is you can see things that other people can't see. But the curse is you got to sit in it alone. In the early 80s, it was a trying time for everyone in our neighborhood. It was the inception of crack cocaine. Many people don't understand what this drug did to our neighborhoods, but it really destroyed it. Oftentimes, you guys go home and you watch the news, and every day it never changes. From 6 o'clock to 6:18, they're telling you about the casualties and the atrocities that happen in our neighborhood. So people already get this broad generalization in their head that, wow, you know, when it's dealing with crack cocaine, either you smoked it or you sold it, but that's the furthest thing from the truth. The thing that was so crazy about that drug is that it attacked innocent people, right? It attacked innocent people. When I was 10 years old, one of my best friends was snatched off the playground because his uncle owed a drug that he knew nothing about. He was 10 years old and they was holding him for ransom. Around this time, everyone started to go stay with their grandmothers because their mothers and fathers were getting strung out on this drug. And so let me give you a history lesson real fast. In the early 80s, there was a federal law passed that said if anyone is caught selling crack cocaine, they get 25 years to life. You can get more time selling crack cocaine than you can for killing someone. So the drug dealers found the loophole. They said, well, y'all said I can get 25 years to life, not these kids. So what they did, they began to recruit kids and put the drugs in their hand. And what happened, kids were selling the drugs, but the older guys was robbing the kids of the drugs. So the drug dealers, they would go back and say, listen, I don't have your product because someone stole it from me. So the drug dealers put guns in their hands and said, well, you make sure you secure yourself and my product. And that's how drugs and guns got in the hands of kids. And it was a trying time. So my mother, at that particular time, she said, I got to get y'all off of these streets. So she took us down to the boys club. And it's crazy, but the thing about the boys club, she took me and my brother, and she said, I want to sign them up. And they said, well, it'd be $750. And my mother took us right by the door, shirt and walked us. She said, I ain't got $750. They said, no, $7.50. That's still the price to this day, right? So she signed us up with the boys club. And as you can see from some of these pictures, I was instantly hooked. I knew that the most of the crime that occurred in our neighborhoods occurred through the hours of 3 and 6. All right? And at the time, the Boys Club had this motto that said, it's the club that beats the streets. And I was there every time. You have kids that attended the Boys Club, and then you have kids that was a club kid that was there from sun up to sundown. That was me. Anything to get away from my neighborhood and feel some kind of safety, that's where I was. The inception of it, I began to introduce myself to these sports. I was a good football player, decent soccer player, decent basketball player. Anyone in this room that known me since I was a child would tell you I was a much better baseball player. I just ended up choosing basketball because the girls liked it. Right? But I was a much better baseball player than anything. And then we all have these moments in our life where you like to reminisce and say, this was the singular moment that really impacted and changed my life forever. I'm walking to the boys club one day, and I see these Pepsi trucks outside. And I'm thinking, okay, no big deal. They just here to restock the machines. And as I walk into the boys club, and I walk inside the gym, I see these posters and all this merchandise and this paraphernalia and these mats and this Pepsi's logos everywhere. I was like, what is going on in here? I'm 10 years old, 11 years old at the time. A bunch of kids just run up to me and say, Vel, you got to enter this Pepsi Hot Shot competition. And I said, I'm not doing that. That's corny. Like, I don't want to be the Pepsi Hot Shot champion. I'm a basketball player. Pepsi Hot Shot? That's like, man, you got to enter it. Ron Williams come over and say, look, man, if you enter, they giving out 2 2-liter Pepsis for whoever wins. I was like, man, sign me up then. That's all you had to say. Like, now we talking, like, right? I'm going to be the man of the house. I'm about to take this on to mom, and she's going to be proud of me at 11 years old. So now they're trying to explain the rules of the game to me. And if you ever had 10-year-olds that don't know what they're talking about trying to explain the situation to you, it was going everywhere. Finally, Ron just walked up to me. He said, man, listen here. You got 60 seconds. You got 6 different spots on this floor. Just make every shot you can in 60 seconds. I said, my man, there it is. The music start playing. I make my first shot, make my second. It goes on and on. When the song ends, everyone rushed the floor and say, man, you broke some record. They lifted me up and everything. Said, man, we've never had this before. The CEO of Pepsi is there. He coming out. He said, man, you broke the Hot Shot record. Forget that Hot Shot. I need these 2 2-liter Pepsis. This is what I'm talking about. Nobody here about no records and all that. I need my merchandise, right? So I ended up winning the Pepsi Hot Shot Championship, and that was in Raleigh. No big deal. I just did it for two Pepsis. What I didn't know is the following week, I had to go to Charlotte and shoot for the state championship. Again, I never practiced for this stuff. I thought it was corny. I just went and I did it because I ain't had nothing to do. Ron took me up there, and now I was crowned the state champion of North Carolina. Now it started to get tricky. The following weekend, I had to go to Atlanta and shoot for the Southeast Regional Championship at Georgia Tech. I don't know if y'all remember this, but I wasn't too promised about going to Georgia Tech because there was a time in the early 80s where it was this thing called the Atlanta child murders happening in Atlanta. And they were killing kids that looked just like me, and they hadn't found the killer yet. And I told Ron, I'm not going down there and risking my life on behalf of no Pepsi just to win a Pepsi hot shot until they find out who killed this guy. And my mama said, Ron, I just need you to take care of my baby. So he came, I'll never forget, he picked me up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and we went to Georgia Tech. This was a little different because now I'm shooting in front of 5,000 people. And when I'm there, I'm seeing this kid who's the defending champion 3 years in a row. And he was unlike anybody I've ever seen. This dude had Pepsi headbands, Pepsi sweatbands, Pepsi knee pads, Pepsi shorts, and a Pepsi t-shirt. He might have had Pepsi underwear on, as far as I care. Like, it was, and I'm looking at him, he's over there doing the stretch routine, and I was like, oh, this dude is real right here. Like, nobody gonna beat this dude. I just got my same little stuff on, and I'm just there. Matter of fact, I just had like a green Pepsi t-shirt on, and I was just there. And it comes into the third round, and they told me that I needed 50 points, and nobody had ever had 50 points in a round. They said, if you're gonna beat this kid, you need 50 points. And I looked at Ron, and Ron said, listen here. I said, man, I'm kind of nervous, because they gave you like a 3-minute break. I was like, I'm nervous. He said, man, you from Lane Street, bro. What you done seen, this ain't got nothing to do with that. He said, besides, if you lose, you're walking your butt home. Keep it PG in here. So I walk out there, man, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's 5,000 people. The kid is complete. Everybody's just waiting on me. And I say, God, just let me hit my first shot. If I hit my first shot, I win. I walk out, they start the music, I take my shot, and I hit the first shot. And then everything else became a blur. I don't think I missed. At the end, I set a Pepsi hot shot record, and I had 52 points. They crowned me the champion. I took the trophy, and I saw the kid in the corner crying. I just always remember it. I felt bad for him because I said, man, I was only in this for a Pepsi. If I would have lost, I wouldn't have felt that bad right there, right? Like, so I went home, and the craziest thing happened to me. And I had no indication of what was going on. Now I'm selected to go shoot at halftime in Washington, D.C., of the Washington Bullets and the Chicago Bulls. It's Michael Jordan's rookie year. And so the Pepsi hot shot is sending me all this stuff, and I didn't want to go because I always thought it was corny. So they're mailing all this stuff, and I'm taking all the documents, and I'm throwing it away. So it's 2 days before I was supposed to leave, and Ron comes to the house. He said, man, the Pepsi called. They said they need your hotel reservations, flight reservations, et cetera. They said you haven't responded to them. So he's talking to my mom, and I'm looking like I have no idea what they're talking about, but I done threw every document away in the trash. And my mom said, you know what, I think this boy around here throwing away documents. She said, Ron, don't worry about it, he going. And I'm starting to feel myself. I might have had like a hair or something on my chin, so I'm starting to feel myself a little bit. And I said, Ron, I hate to tell you this, but I ain't going. So Ron is just doing this, looking at me and looking at my mom. And she said, Ron, he going. I said, Ron, I'm not going. She said, Ron, you better be here tomorrow. I promise you, this one is going. I said, Ron, I'm not going. So Ron walks out the house and say, look, y'all work that out. And as he walks up the hill, I get one more. Ron, I'm not going. And so she gets one more. Oh, he going. So we going back and forth with that. So the next day, I'm on the way to the airport. If you knew my mom, you would know I wasn't going to win that battle. Next day, I'm on my way to the airport. It's my first time ever being on a plane, and it's the singular event that changed my life forever. I'm flying into D.C. I remember exactly how long it took. It took 38 minutes. And as I fly into D.C., I'm seeing all these historical landmarks that I had only seen in history books, right? I'm seeing the Capitol. I'm seeing the monument. And then we're going to stop at the White House and meet the president. And at the time, the president is President Reagan. We stop in the White House. He comes over. He said, man, I heard you're a really good shooter. He said, what's your name? I said, my name is Lavelle Moton, L-E-V-E-L-L-E-M-O-T-O-N. And he said, well, good luck tomorrow. The following day, I'm shooting at halftime of an NBA basketball games. Now I'm on television. It's being televised. And all my friends are watching back at home. My family and loved ones are watching back home. And I ended up winning the competition. When I got back, they gave me like a brief parade. And I told my grandmother, I said, Grandma, I said, the light bulb has went off for me. I said, I'm going to use this basketball, and I'm going to take care of you the rest of your life, and I'm going to buy you this big house and this big car. And what she told me never changed it changed my life forever. She said, that's fine and dandy. I want you to understand one thing. When you leave this earth, if people remember you as being a great basketball player, then you've done a poor job of living. It's something I've never forgotten. It's something I took with me ever since this very day. The second singular most impactful event of my life was April 1st, 1984. Again, I don't remember what I had on yesterday, but I remember dates like the back of my hand, especially profound, impactful days of my life. The phone was ringing on this particular day over and over and over again. It may have rang like 45 times in a row. I was the designated phone answerer in my house, and that was my job. So this day, the phone is ringing over and over again, and my mom said, whoever it is, tell them I'm not here. So I get the phone, and I say, hello, it's Faye from upstairs. And Faye said, Puffy, where's your mom? And I said, she said she's not here. And she said, boy, I know she there can't handle that phone, and I just following instructions. So I hand my mom the phone, and my mom get on the phone, and I just see her face turn, and I see it drop. And she said, what? And she said, yeah, girl. She's like, no, don't start. And my mom starts crying. And my mom covers the phone. She said, Puffy, go tell your grandma that Marvin Gaye just died. I was like, oh, my goodness. I was the designated phone answerer and the designated emailer as well. So my job was to run 2 blocks and deliver that message to my grandmother. So I run to my grandmother's house, who stayed 2 blocks away, and I knock on the door. And I said, bang, bang, bang. And I said, Grandma, Grandma. She said, boy, what's wrong with you? I said, Mom told me to tell you that Marvin Gaye died. She said, what? So she turned on the TV, and we only had 3 channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC, all right? And on a good day, you might get channel 22, but you had to put the aluminum foil on the antenna. See, some of y'all ain't grow up like that, so that's what I'm up here for. But she turns to the news, and I'll never forget, they broadcasting this, and they're going into a moment of silence. And as it goes into the moment of silence, this exact picture goes up. It says Marvin Gaye, April 2nd, 1939 to April 1st, 1984. And my grandmother set me back, and I laid in her arms, and she said, I want to tell you something. I want you to understand something. His birth date, that doesn't matter. His death date, that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that little dash between all of those numbers, because that represents his legacy. That's how people will remember him, and that's the profound impact that he had on this world. Life lesson for me. My grandmother passed the following year, March 1st, 1986. I became depressed, suicidal. I just felt like everything that I loved walked away or was taken away. It was just me and my mom and my brother. And my prayer to God was, don't let anything happen to my mom, because me and my brother would have to go to foster care. And my life took a turn that many of you don't know about. And I just simply didn't care anymore. I didn't care about grades. I didn't care about academics. My friends were dying. And my mother called John Baker at the time, and she said, I can't do nothing with this kid no more. And I was on the first episode of Scared Straight. He took me to the jail. He said, if you don't tighten up, this is where you're going to be. Then I met this guy, Ron Williams. He taught me how to hit a baseball, throw a football, shoot a basketball. And I hated him at first when I first met him. Number one, I just never had a male figure in my life. I never had one who demanded excellence like he did. No matter what you did, you couldn't please him. And that's my pastor right there, so he was a tough guy to please, and he was tough on everyone, but it seemed like he was tough on me. He always made me play 2 age groups up. So he never allowed me to play in my division, whether it was baseball or basketball. He always made me play up, and it was a bit challenging. And one day I'm playing in the city baseball league, and I go to Method, and it's the city championship of Raleigh. I'm 9 years old at that time. And we're playing, and it's jam-packed, and everyone is out there. And before I walked out the door of the boys club that day, he said, don't come back in here without no ring or no medal, because I don't raise no losers. So we get into the game, and it's a back-and-forth game, and it's 5-4. And I walk up to the plate, and it's exactly how I dreamed. The bases are loaded, and it's full count. And in my mind, I've been in this position a million times, and I could hit a baseball with my eyes closed. And the guy threw the baseball, and I swung, and I missed. And I struck out, and I lost the city championship. It was the most devastating pain I've ever felt in my life to this day, because I felt like I was more than qualified to hit that baseball, but it was the first time I felt public humiliation, and I was devastated. And I stayed away from the boys club for probably 2 weeks because I didn't want to go back in there and face this guy, because I knew as soon as I walked in that door, he was going to let me have it. I finally got over it, and now I'm growing up, and I'm receiving these accolades, and I become MVP of the Super Bowl in football, and I get named to all of these all-star teams in baseball, and now I'm one of the top 100 players in the nation in basketball. And every time people would go back and tell him, man, like, Vail is good. Vail scored 48 points the other night. He'd be like, oh, he ain't nothing. That was his response. Man, Vail threw 3 touchdowns. Whatever, that boy ain't nothing. He ain't gonna be nothing. And so my sole purpose was to please him. We're playing basketball on August the 1st, 1988. I know this date because it's the only trophy I have in my house. We're playing in the Raleigh Police Department League. And again, we're playing 2 ages up. One of my best friends, he gets hurt by the name of Victor Harris. So Ron is our coach, and he say, listen, man, I need you to take over tonight. I need you to have your best effort. We got to win this championship. I'm 14, I end up scoring like 48 points to win our championship. And they give me the MVP award. It's the only award in my house. He's driving me home that night like he did every single night because he wanted to protect me from other housing projects. That man took me home every single day of my life. So I'm thinking, he got to tell me I'm good. He got to. He pulled up in my driveway. And before I get out the car, he says, and I made sure I got out slow. He said, I've seen a lot of kids come through this boys club, man. But you're the best basketball player that I've ever seen come through here. He said, I love you. And if anything changes, I'll let you know. And I walked to my house. And from that day, my confidence just skyrocketed. And I grew into the man. I just had so much confidence. It was the first time a man had ever told me he loved me. It was the first time anyone showed me outside of my family that they really cared about me. But I knew I was really special in that moment because I knew he was never going to tell me, and he finally told me. I think I went back to school and talked to every girl in the hallway that day. But I'm so grateful for that. I was afforded the opportunity to be selected for USA men's basketball. And it was ironic, we were in Greece, And as we won the gold medal, I'm sitting on the podium and I'm thinking about this guy. And I'm thinking about my life. Like, how in the world did I get here from Orchard Park to Lane Street to here? And I didn't know. And I've been called crazy my entire life, right? A lot of you don't know this, but my inception into coaching, I never wanted to be a coach. This basketball that signed Coach K, Kevin Keats, Roy, I know all of them, they're great friends. All of them wanted to be a coach. I didn't want to be a coach. So it's almost like coaching chose me. Many of you probably don't know this, but I was asked to be assistant coach for $85,000 at the end of my playing career by my former coach. And the same day I was asked to be the middle school coach for $225 a month for 3 months. That's $675 a year for all you mathematicians out there. So I had a decision to make. Do I take the $85,000 or do I take the $675? And I told my mom, I said, I'm going to pray on it and I'll let you know my decision tomorrow. Being as though this is a PG atmosphere, I can't tell you exactly what my mom said. But I ended up choosing to be a middle school coach for $225 a month. The reason I did that is because I wanted to impact kids' lives the way mine was impacted by Ron Williams. It was very simple. Whenever I was going to be a high school basketball coach, people don't know how many times people told me no. I applied for high school positions, and schools said thank you, but no thank you. I won't mention them, but they were Leesville, Millbrook, and Wakefield. And I just recalled that event. The first question at my press conference was, Lavelle, did you think you guys could come in here and defeat NC State? I was like, heck yeah, like that's a dumb question. We believed in ourselves. But the first thing I did when I came back from Greece, I took my gold medal and I returned to that baseball field where I struck out, and I put that gold medal on that plate. And Ron Williams once told me that don't come back in here without a ring or a gold medal. Closing, I'll say this. What he gave me was a pride in myself, a pride in my last name when no one else believed in me. And it's allowed me to have an edge, not only a competitive edge, but just an edge to be successful in life. And it wasn't just me. When you see P.J. Tucker playing for the Houston Rockets, and you see that kid out there with that edge, that was from him. When you see John Wall playing with the Washington Wizards, that was from him. We're all products of this guy right here. And a lot of you, you've given, but you probably didn't know the exact investments that you were making. In 40 years of my housing project existed, in 40 years, 6 kids went to college. 6. 2 was from under my mother's roof. But all 6 was really close to this guy. So I leave, and I will tell you this in closing. Every child deserves a champion, an adult that believes in them, who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection, and insists that that child become the best person that they can possibly become. And I'm fortunate I'm here because when I prayed with my grandmother and she asked God to bless her kids, I realized she was talking about me. But the Boys Club changed my life forever, and everything that I am, everything that I will be is because of the Boys Club. So please give, because there's a million Lavelle Motons out here, but they're struggling, they're trying to find their way. They wasn't as privileged. They wasn't born on third base in life. They got to hit it and come all the way back around. But just financial support can help a child and spark the brain that can change the future forever. Thank you so much. That's my time. My name is Lavelle Moton, L-E-V-E-L-L-E-M-O-T-O-N. Thank you.
Man, we are so fortunate to have incredible community leaders. And Lavelle, he's a shining example of how clubs are beneficial to those young people who need us most. I hope that you have learned a bit more about our clubs and that there was a part of the event that resonates with you. This year has been like no other and a challenge for us all. For the first time in history, it was safer for club members to be at home than it was for them to be at the club. Despite all of the challenges 2020 has brought, the clubs were still open to serve hot meals, deliver virtual programs, and support remote learning. With all of this, the cost to serve youth and to keep them safe has increased tremendously. We invite you to help us make a positive impact in the lives of our youth. With this gift, we can ensure that the young people that we serve have access to academic support, character development programs, and life skills training necessary to thrive during these challenging times. Visit our website to make your tax-deductible donation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.